picking laundry up for your horses or something. Oh shit, we're live. Hello.
That's going to become a thing, huh?
Okay. What are you talking about? That's presumptuous, at least.
Yeah, thrilling.
So, hello. Welcome to Princess Robot, episode 2, where the theme is made up and the points don't matter. Wait, that's not it.
Sure it is.
Might as well be.
That's almost exactly right.
Oh boy, that's right.
We're making up stuff on the fly. This is an unplanned and flying by the seat of the pants kind of podcast, and that's exactly how we like it.
What's that? You're asking me what I did with my week? Well, shit, nothing, Ponky.
Well, what's that? You in return volleyed the question. Well, same as always, Skirts.
Well, I was going to do like a one-shot Tober thing. I would be like writing I was trying to do like 2 one-shots a week, but I just couldn't gather up enough steam to do it. Because so many of my one-shot ideas is like, well, you've done that before, cuddle porn, lols, and so I saw like someone did a really cool blog the other day, Silver Spawn on FimFic. They did like a really flattering review of Scale, which was written while you were on the 2 months.
Yeah, your daring do story.
Yeah, you're all the way on the 2 months space Mexico proselytizing. But they were saying like how, Skirts used to write really awesome novels before it went to nothing but cuddle porn. Like, oh god damn it! Thanks for complimenting me, but oy. So I at that point where I vacillate between, I want to do one shots, no, I want to do long form fics, and honestly, if I want to go anywhere, I should probably just like spend a week or 2 unplugged and see if I can come up with something. But that's for myself.
You like that. You like that idea of.
I like the idea, but not necessarily execution.
Right, of taking some kind of hiatus, like separating yourself from the world. I really liked in your 2011 blog that you did when you talked about how literally the conception of End of Ponies was born of the moment of your experience right then, that you started to imagine a pony in your shoes, someone that was going back and forth between like this loneliness and darkness and emptiness, and then this like bright, colorful, beautiful world, and that turned into a story from something you were literally experiencing was really interesting. I can't say I've ever done anything like that. I think that's pretty amazing.
Sounds pretty cool. You sure you didn't write the story? When I read Sisters Do, I felt like there's a lot of stuff that I recognize from our mists together, and like the kind of life you lived, as a kid and into like teenagehood, like some of the concerns you had. I could see a lot of that stuff parallel, not just in Derpy and Daring, but also in Dinky, or at least in a prevailing theme. So back at you, motherfucker.
You're probably right. I guess I've never. The only way that I've thought about that very consciously is that I'm aware of how similar I am to both Ditzy and Daring.
Yeah, sure. I can buy
that. But you're right that like, of course, everybody just writes what they know, whether they realize that or not. So yeah, there are a lot of themes of like a missing father kind of a thing or whatever, like these things that really do exist in my life, but I write about them just because they're already there in my head, and I liked in your blog how cognizant it was and how intentional it was. I thought that was really cool.
Before we carry on, I want to do a shout out to the Barcast, and especially Milk, who's kind enough to make a mention of us in their Discord group to pass the pain along. So thank you, and my apologies in advance, but it's
thanks.
Appreciated to spread the love around, so to speak.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Last week we answered a bunch of questions, and that was fun. And this week we're gonna, as we talked about, or as we mentioned last week, we're kind of gonna go over our history, or whatever we remember of it. We've known each other for over 5 years now, and I still sometimes get comments or just see it floating in the wind of other people talking about like, how do these two know each other? Like, why is there this seemingly unique bond between one of the greatest writers on FimFiction and this sketchy weirdo to the side?
Yeah, I'm such a weirdo, aren't
I? I should have seen that coming.
Should have prepared it like from downtown cricket.
Sorry about that.
I like tracing the history of relationships and friendships, and
Me too.
take into
Yeah.
account the fact that the smallest of things, especially in the online realm, smallest of things can have like major butterfly effect repercussions of who you meet and who you don't meet and stuff of that ilk. What was your life like before Pony, Ponky?
Before Pony?
Yes,
Do you mean immediately before, or is
this set up a framework, I suppose.
well, I guess that's hard to say. I mean, in a lot of ways, becoming a brony was the first choice that I ever made, and I know that sounds
Wow.
silly, but I do mean it. You know, like it was the first thing that was unusual or kind of outside the norm, or potentially people could easily criticize it, that I still just dove headfirst into regardless. So I think that did a lot for me as a person. Up until that, I had always just looked for the thing to do that was popular, or that was not even popular is a silly word. What I just mean is fitting in. You know, typical teenager kind of a thing. I always knew that I was a little bit unique in high school. I didn't like sports. You know, I sang. And these things that got me attention without necessarily blending me in with the rest of the crowd. And so becoming a brony at first was very much just kind of changed my mind about what it meant to be happy, what it meant to be comfortable in my own skin. And then obviously it turned around to the point that I just got right back into the swing of like, well, how could I use this to be to get attention? But
Well,
that didn't happen right at first.
Not to expose too much like private shit or whatnot, but if I recall stuff you wrote to me at that time in your life, 2012, because of the culture you live in, a lot of the people you called best buds were basically missing in action for 24 months at a time. Like,
very true. Yeah. So I was definitely I was going to BYU at the time. I discovered My Little Pony during finals week of my freshman year of college.
Yeah. Okay.
And got very distracted and watched the entirety of season 1 in a couple of days when I should have been studying and taking tests. But yeah, I had made these college buddies, and then because we were all Mormons going to BYU, they all went on missions. I'm pretty young for my grade, and I've always had friends that were about a year older than me. And so they all left and went to New York or Bulgaria or Fiji or wherever else all around the world. And it was just me at BYU, because you can't go on a mission until you're 19, and I wasn't yet. So I kept going to BYU, and I was just miserable and lonely. But this fandom held me in its arms and really carried me through that. And I'll never forget that. That was really important to me. And most of all, a certain soul that came out of that experience became very important to me.
Yep, saddle soap opera.
That's right. Yep. I was actually thinking of Colden Gardez, but he's
really?
another one.
But I thought you chatted with.
No.
Actually, didn't you you read saddle soap opera stuff and you actually chatted with them? I think.
Oh yes, saddle soap opera was a huge help to me right at the beginning. I freaking loved his Pony Psychology series. It was the first thing that I read that was like, let's maintain canon while digging deeper. That was a really fascinating balance in fan fiction in general that I didn't know was even existed. So that was really cool.
I think wasn't there like another figure following you reading a lot? I think it was like The World Is Not a Cold Place, I think, by Lucky. What's his name? Was it Lucky Strike?
Lucky Dreams.
Lucky Dreams.
It's Not a Cold Dark Place. It was just a little short thing. It wasn't updating or anything. It was just this little conception of an idea, this little flickering flame of a story right at its beginning that was so good, like just immaculately written, so descriptive, very exciting and different. And because it was one of the very first things in fan fiction that I had ever read, I was already expecting fan fiction to be a certain thing.
Hmm.
Never having read any, I just kind of had these typical ideas of what fan fiction was. And so finding things like It's Not a Cold Dark Place and the Pony Psychology series and It Takes a Village by Dieter Manfred,
That's
and then
another one.
eventually Background Pony, showed me how seriously it can be taken and how incredible it can be, because it just skips all the pretense of an original book, and it keeps you with these characters that you already know and already love, and just like takes you on these adventures that the original medium could never approach. And wow, it was just exhilarating to see that could happen, and to embrace it instead of roll my eyes at it. And that was so much fun. What a fun time that was for me in my life.
I was too much of a selfish asshole to be reading other people's stuff around that time. I was too busy trying to do a chokehold on the fandom myself. I already did a blog about 2011, but generally speaking, after 2009, I feel like my life kind of had a bit of a social or maybe antisocial shift. A lot of the people who I met during the Teen Titans day, I just long disconnected with an exception to LB, dude from up north who I chatted with on a daily basis, and we'd like do World of Warcraft and stuff together. When we got into ponies, he's like, "Damn it, Krillin," and he's just like, "You have fun on your own." Like, okay. So when I started doing the whole pony thing, like in 2011, trying to right, I remember Rainbow Dash and that exploding and then doing into ponies. I was pretty much on my own. It's like the closest I've been to is just straight up completely alone in like a fandom or like an online scene. I mean, granted, I kind of consider myself very introspective and kind of introverted and
Yeah.
antisocial in general, but it's weird looking back because I've made so many friends and part of so many communities and fucking Noble Jury and everything that it's like a whole nother world. But I had this sort of ego desire to make a big splash, and that was why I was such a try hard with EOP and other stuff around that time.
Well, you did it though. That's what's cool. And I know that you're telling the story in a self-deprecating way, but you succeeded.
Well,
You had this idea of becoming this prolific pony writer who kind of defined the genre itself, you know, and like in a lot of ways you really did do that. I know that sounds silly, but a lot of people would agree with me that Short Skirts and Explosions became a phenomenon in this fandom, and the reason that's cool is because that's what you wanted. It wasn't just like, it didn't just happen. It was intentional.
well, before that ever came into fruition, the closest contact I ever made was Vimbert. But with Vimbert, I didn't like want to be his friend, which sounds horrible. Like I kind of stalked him and I appreciated him, like from below, kind of a thing. But I felt like if I became buddy buddy with him, it would like destroy the objective relationship we had as writer and editor. If that makes any sense. I was trying to be
Yeah.
somewhat stick in a muddish professional about the whole writing thing. So I could have chatted him up. I could have maybe, I don't know, maybe brushed elbows with like the Equestria Daily pre-readers and stuff, but I didn't do that. I just like, I'm just here to write, and eventually I would run into Warden and the Worst Writer, and I just kind of consider them tangentially attached to Bember. Like they're also just, you know, we're just editing, we're just working on this powerhouse, power horse of a story in the ponies. But of course, that eventually crashed and burned, and
Well,
I had a well, it had in the editing process, like early on, I had what I called the sabbatical in like, I think January or early February, where the 200,000 plus word Petra arc just didn't cut it and didn't make the grade. Bember's like, oh my God, what happened? and the other editors were like, yeah, this is, you probably want to reconsider like from ground one, this like the story arcs. I'm like, oh God, I just need some time to meditate. And through Pony-chan, I had gotten connections with like other I think writers and editors, and one of them was Spotlight, aka Insomniac Overlord, and he was a major artist of like the furry fandom, and he was turning on a pony, and he was doing lots of artwork of stuff that I probably wouldn't talk about too much in a chat like this, honestly. But he drew a couple art pieces based on into ponies and flattered the hell out of me, including some of the best freaking fan art ever of like scenes from the opening of Into Ponies with like the last pony running out or running away from like the Phoenix chasing her and stuff.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so naturally, when people flatter me, I tend to coalesce around them. And I hung out in Spotlight's live stream for a long time and pretended not to look at his Pokemon porn while they just chatted up about gaming and stuff. And I would hang out and do Team Fortress 2 and other stuff. That's how I brushed elbows with Sam Rose, aka Jake Haritagu, the author of Silent Ponyville, who indirectly is responsible for me coming up with the idea of Background Pony. Around that same time period, as I was trying to get back into the editing, and I eventually started doing Background Pony, I ran into Props, who Props was making comments in Pony-chan, like about the stories and stuff, and being that the freaking sexy nice guy that he is, I just like, please edit for me, you're awesome, you make me feel good. And he was eventually joined by Roz Grease, and oh god, I feel horrible from forgetting anyone. Demetrius was around that time. He's a guy you probably don't know a whole lot about, but he was a frequent commenter around that period of time. Long story short, during the opening periods of Background Pony, I was in constant communication with Warden, Roz Grease, Worst Writer, Props, and in some occasions Vimbert, and was chatting a lot with Spotlight on the side. So I had found more or less a group of people to chat with. Pilot and Her Majesty C-Squared would show up later on in that year, but I was starting to form more or less a clique of people, and that was the origin of Spanish Announce Table. Spanish Announce Table Goes First, which is the group that I created. I always want to use that name for something. And so it was just like a group of like-minded people, like, hey, Vimber, you're invited. It's like, whatever. Okay, just jump on board, please. You know, this is going to be a group for people who want to share fics and like-minded ideas. And like, yeah, I got a family now, kind of. But without going into too many details, this is not a 2012 blog. Around middle of 2012, like going into June, July, I was starting Austreo, and I was doing some stuff on the fly, but Background Pony was my ticket. That was the thing that hit off so very well. I got so many people like, you know, reading my own stuff. Brian J, thank you, Floydian. God damn it, I know I was forgetting people. Sorry, I was looking at chat. Anyways, Background Pony was hitting off super big, and I was on top of the world. 2012 was one of the happiest years of my life. I mean, I get daily featured so much with a lot of the stuff I write, but I was daily featured for like almost like a week straight with Background Pony, and I felt like, oh my god, is this kind of sort of internet celebrityhood? Oh my god, I like people know me and stuff, and it was very full of it and very ecstatic and kind of embarrassingly like enthusiastic about stuff. But eventually, the honeymoon kind of ended, and I realized that Background Pony was getting bigger and bigger. I'd planned to do 20 chapters, and I knew I wanted to go with it long term, but by about the middle of it, like around chapter 8 or 9, I was just starting to feel like the drain, because I felt like I was comparing everything to like the first chapter. It's like I have to keep the quality up. It has to be good. It has to be poignant. It's got to be commentating on all these different, you know, pseudo-psychological stuff, philosophical stuff. And I was starting to get mired by counter opinions and stuff I would see on the chans and stuff. And I was thinking, am I a fraud? Am I, you know, not really as awesome as I think I am? Is all these chapters really stupid and full of it? And that was around the time that the Pinkie Pie chapter went up, which we've talked about a bit ourselves. I still think it's the worst chapter of Background Pony. I think a lot of people agree that it's like, okay, what the fuck were you smoking on this chapter? Is because I really didn't give a fuck with that chapter. I think the attitude Lyra had to Pinkie Pie was reflecting my attitude to Pinkie Pie and to the fic in general at that point. Long story short, I just kind of reached like a lull, and I was kind of searching for something to kind of reinvigorate my enthusiasm about the novel, and that's where I hand it back off to you.
Oh, really? Is that?
You know.
Whoa, that's kind of cool. I didn't realize that that's how far along you were in Background Pony.
Pretty much. I don't think we conversed much until around chapter 12 went up or so. So I was kind of hitting the crest, so to speak.
Interesting. Yeah, I can hear myself a little bit on your end. Is there any way to turn that down just a bit?
Not really. I had to put the dongle down.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Sorry.
I'll trust my my high-tech computer to fix it for me with time. That's okay.
I'm not hearing any
It's
feedback
getting better
myself.
already.
Look at that, Chad. Are you
Okay,
hearing
that's great.
feedback? Are you getting double the Ponky in your earballs?
They're probably fine. But so like I said, I just started figuring out all of these, just finding all of these initial interesting fan fictions that began to catch my attention and draw me in and make me feel comfortable with this idea of fan fiction. And I actually think that if I remember correctly, I was like, okay, it's really hard to remember because this was 5 years ago, you know?
It's 5 years ago of your long ass life, Ponky.
Well, that's the point is that I'm very young. 5 years to me is like 25% of my, okay, at this point, it's a little different than that. But anyway.
For reference, chat, Ponky was born the year that Jurassic Park came out.
Is that true?
I was born when Ronald Reagan was still in office, so.
We are almost 10 years apart,
Yeah.
almost exactly, which I think is pretty cool. But I was just completely floored by Background Pony when I found it. I think I was directed toward it by a like a I don't even know what they're called. What's it called when you're in a chat but there's like a bunch of people? Isn't that chat room? Is that what it's called? Freaking chat room.
That sounds like a chat room.
I don't know if FimFiction even still has chat rooms, but it did.
They had an IRC chat, like an older format of chatting that I think, Pilot used to masturbate to. I never got into it too much.
So the very first time that I ever went to FimFiction, that's just right where I went because I was overwhelmed. I still kind of thought it was weird and stupid and fan fiction was silly, but someone had pointed me in that direction, and then I jumped on this chat, and someone in the chat pointed me to a bunch of different stories. One of them was It Takes a Village, which I really liked, and then one of them was Background Pony. And I mean, people that know me already are very aware of how divine a Background Pony is in my life. It is like so quintessentially important to me. And so yes, it's true that it led to this very important relationship and friendship that I have with you. But even if I separated that, even if you and I never became friends, Background Pony is so amazing to me. It's just like, yeah, is it pretentious? Does it sometimes stretch things out too long? Is it to those things, yes. Is it perfect? No. But it captures this feeling that I love that I have never really had anywhere else. And for you, I know that talking to you, it's probably comparable to the way that you felt when you played Majora's Mask as a kid.
Yeah. Big influence.
Background Pony is my Majora's Mask. It's my it's this supremely important document and experience that shaped the way I think about stories, that actually changed the way that I think about people. Like as I met new people and as I started to walk around my college campus and look at people, I started to think about, holy crap, everyone has a story. And of course everyone has a story, but Background Pony was the first thing that really like punched me in the face with that idea, to say that if you had the opportunity to just like talk to these people without consequences, you would be amazed at what they would be able to share with you. Mm-hmm. And I'll always be grateful to it. I'm really excited to get my physical copy that's coming soon. And I'm going to read it all again, and I'm super pumped. But beyond all that silly praise, what really happened when I started reading Background Pony was that I found a hero. And I've always been the kind of person that quickly latched onto a human person that represented something much larger than themselves, and certainly myself. In the past, a good example is Bo Stevenson.
Yeah, I was thinking Bo.
Yeah. When I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 years old, I must have been 13 or 14 actually, just about to go into high school up in Washington. And I was in middle school, and I was in choir for the first time in my life. I had no idea I could sing until I was about that age. And my choir teacher was very excited about the natural talent that I had. And she took me and a group of kids to the high school to to see the 10th Avenue Singers. They were like the premier kind of popular music, whatever, jazz music show group of high school kids at the high school who sang and put on shows every year and all this fun stuff. So we went and got to watch one of their rehearsals. And at the end of the show, there was this skinny, tall, curly-haired kid who sat down at a grand piano with a harmonica around his face, and he sang Let It Be by the Beatles. And it was this incredible, captivating performance that I was just glued into and mesmerized by. And in that moment, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I had no idea before that. I didn't know how to play the piano. I barely was realizing that I could sing well, but like seeing Bo perform was the first time that I was like, that's it. You know, that's me. That's me. I want to do exactly what he's doing. And I did. He graduated that year and left, and so I never actually in that moment got to ever talk to him or get to know him. But I did go on to learn how to play the piano and sing and perform, and I filled that same last song spot in 10th Avenue in the show that my year did when I was in 10th Avenue a couple of years later. So that's kind of a cool little like circle story. And then after that performance, I wrote a letter to Bo Stevenson. I tracked him down and wrote a letter, and I said, hey, you don't know who I am, but I'm just so grateful to you because you inspired me to do something I never would have done otherwise, and that now I know that this is going to be a huge part of my life. And Bo wrote me back, and to this day, and I mean, that's a lot longer than 5 years. I don't know how long that is. Literally almost 10 years now. Bo and I never stopped talking, and he's one of my very best friends. We just talked on the phone the other day. I've gone down to California where he lives several times to visit with him and to watch his daughter, and like, you know, we're very close friends. And that happens to me. I find people that are fascinating to me, that impress me, and I don't leave them alone until they realize that I could be a very good friend. And the same thing happened with you. I didn't quite know how to approach it, and this might be a good time to go toward the visual aids that you've given us. But I knew that you and I had to be friends. I knew that somehow I had to get into your space. Do we have that? Did people know that they can see that?
It's on the it's in the actual blog post. Let me link it to the current chat.
Yeah. So Skirts posted a blog on FimFiction, and he included screenshots of our very first conversation. So what happened was I had this stupid idea about Daring and Ditzy being sisters, and I wrote this one chapter of them like meeting in Ditzy's house and fighting, and it was just supposed to be this one chapter.
Remind me really quick, were you doing Sisters Do, like, were you planning it or writing it before you even read Background Pony?
That's a great question. I would have to go back and see. I don't think that they're related. So, because like, I think that the Sisters
it was a cameo. It was just a cameo. It didn't really have a whole lot to do with the integral storyline.
Correct.
But it's I still want
it sparked everything. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'll go back and check and look at that, because that's an interesting question.
And to be fair, regardless, I had 2 other cameos too. I think like there was someone that Daring Do met on the Zeppelin. I think it was like a cameo, and then he either had Noteworthy or he had some other pony in a music shop, I believe.
Oh, definitely. I love that idea of, and maybe some of that was inspired by Background Pony or just fan fictions in general that were so good at incorporating so much of the show, and I didn't quite know how to do that. But yeah, I wrote that first chapter of the Sisters Do, and then I needed some way to push it forward, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I just had this stupid idea of, well, what if I used Lyra? Because I love Lyra. I'm loving this character. I'm loving this story. So I did. I wrote that chapter, and I sent you a PM, and you can see that conversation, that first conversation in the blog that Skirts is linking to.
Because that's not anything.
It's so funny that it worked. I guess is what's funny to me, that I sent this with the intention, I guess. Well, I don't want to break your heart, but you weren't the first person that I had done this to, even in the Brony fandom.
That's why I was saying you did like other cameos in Sisters Do. It wasn't just...
Yeah, I had written Saddle Soap Opera, and we had talked a little bit. I had written Dieter Mamfid, who never got back to me. I had written these people that I that I appreciated and that I thought were talented. But yours was the only one. When you responded, you are a character, you know, especially before you ever hear your voice. The voice that you portray in writing is amazing.
It
It's
was
like,
back in that time period. I had like a
no, you still do it. Even in your blogs, I know that it has changed. You're right. It's evolved. But just naturally, you have this way of expressing a huge range of interest and emotion, even when the emotion is apathy. You carry that across so well in the way that you write. And I picked that up immediately. And it was sarcastic and funny and self-deprecating, which was weird coming from someone that I thought was so talented. And like, I don't know, something very charming about it. And we just couldn't stop talking after that. If my memory is right, we just
we had a steady line of PMs around that time.
Yeah, we kept sending each other stuff, or I would bug you, or you would ask me to draw something, or one way or another.
Things in some perspective. I'm a real asshole, and I'm also very antisocial. And when a lot of people PM me, and I don't know if anyone from the Barcast is like paying attention to this, but I tend to ignore a lot of PMs. I'm just like, when people ask me like, hey, can you review this, or like, you know, hey, what was your idea about this particular fic, or are you ever going to continue EOP? I just don't respond. And that's jerkly of me, I know, but it's mostly laziness, but it's also like antisocial. Just it
makes sense.
Yeah, I like living a simple life on the internet, and anonymity kind of assists in letting me just, I guess, give some people the brush off. And reason I'm saying that is that I guess I had every reason to do that with Ponky. A lot of times when people ask me questions like, oh, hey, would you mind if I fucking translate your goddamn novel into Russian? I'm like, sure. I mean, why would I say no to that? That's fine. Or people say like, hey, you mind if I do an audio reading of like this story or that story? I'm like, yeah, sure. I usually just leave a single line. In this particular case, when Ponky messaged me, I happened to be in a very like strangely good mood. And I think the reason for that was, like I was saying with Background Pony, it hit like a lull, and I was just kind of like tired of the fic. My mind was wandering, and I kind of was thirsting for something new and exciting to work on that wasn't Australia, because Australia hadn't picked up yet. It wasn't until maybe August or September that people actually started giving a fuck about that story. And something I did, I guess because I was so bored, is that I returned to Second Life for like the first time in 2011. This is not going to go to a not safe for workplace, I promise you. But when I went back into Second Life, and on a whim, I visited a sim, which is the name of like a simulated world in the game, that was a recreation of Disneyland, like in game. And if you ever seen Second Life, you know they can't do it perfectly, but the idea and the motivation is there. And I was walking around in like this virtual recreation of Disneyland and Second Life, and they had gone to the full length to create like in-world representation of Star Tours, including like a in-world like video broadcast of like the videos they would play when you're waiting in the queue line of Star Tours. And it was the first time I was exposed to legit Disney shit in years, and I was like, oh my god, that's just really cool and nerdy that they happen to do that, and kind of filled me with this kind of childlike inner joy. And I did a little more searching. I found that they had like a they didn't finish it, but they tried to do an in-game recreation of the Horizons ride from Epcot that was
wow.
That was eventually demolished, I think, in like '99 or something like that. If anybody doesn't know, Horizons at Epcot is probably the absolute best dark ride ever made, and you can find clips of it on the internet. And that's what I did. I looked online, and I realized that, hello, here we are in the year 2012. People have archives of old extinct Disney rides that they have recreated faithfully to allow you to more or less re-experience something that for me had been untouched for over 15 years. And I was like, oh my god, this is such a cool rush of nostalgia I was feeling. And long story short, it put me in this really, really, really happy mood. And I was like, well, you know, life isn't so bad. I could write all sorts of random weird shit. I had this idea of a story called Decider Princess Lives, aka It Ends With Them Cuddling, which was later butchered and thrown into an arc in Appledashery. I just had these really trippy ideas of like a psychedelic adventure story starring Rainbow Dash that had to do with her and Applejack being shipped. I was a full-blown flaming Apple Dasher at that point, and I had no escape. And so, long
At
story short, I
that
was like,
point.
"Wow, I'm such a good, happy mood. What's this? A PM from some person named Ponky wanting a cameo? What the fuck ever? Sure, you know." And so, I think I was in like it was almost like I was smoking something when he PM'd me. I was just in a really cool mood, and I was more talkative than usual. And if that visit on Second Life and the sudden nostalgia bomb of doing the rabbit hole on YouTube about Disney memorabilia and nostalgia didn't happen, I may not have given you the light of day. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the timing was really good because then, no, it really was, because then right after that is when, and you can see this kind of in the text that we shared. Mm-hmm. I keep talking to you. I don't want to. I mean, I don't know if I can explain to you. I'm sure that you've had similar experiences, and everybody has. But like when I got that response from you, I was not expecting it, because you came across in your blogs, and because back then you hardly blogged at all. So you were this very shrouded in mystery kind of a character. And so when you did respond to me, I can remember even now, if I think about it, like the way that my heart beat, and like that I was like excited and like getting like a rush of blood to the head, and I didn't want to let that go, and so we kept writing back and forth, and I sent you that stupid little comic strip that I also posted in a comment of Background Pony, where
me blog of that.
I might have. I was proud of it. I probably put it everywhere, but I know that I did send it to you, and I also posted it in a comment. But it was proto Ponky, like the character of Ponky that you can see on the screen if you're looking.
Yeah.
Did not exist then, and so like I still had this idea though that I could convey myself as this skinny character with fuzzy hair. And so I drew him finding out that there was a new chapter of Background Pony and freaking out. And you liked that style, and you literally asked, will you draw cover art for this idea that I have, which was It Ends With Them Cuddling. And so you got to tell me a little bit about that story. That started like going toward a chat instead of PM, so that you could get more information and tell me, all at once, and tell me more about the story, and you could let me ask questions and stuff.
Typical Skirts. The very moment I realized that someone has this god complex about me, I decided to hoard them for fan art. That's such an asshole. That's what I did.
Well, that's all right.
Like, well, hey, I'm in a good mood, and you seem to be in a good mood, and I think I can totally write the story. I never did. Hey, why don't you draw this cover art for it? Because, no offense, but you're not exactly Spotlight when it comes to doing pony art. But I figured that for the nature of the fanfic and like how psychedelic and weird it would gel perfectly with your sketchily style. And I'm like, sure, why the hell not?
Yeah, so that's what I mean by the timing worked out really well. Like what are the odds that you would? I think you described the way that I drew as like laser lights with pencil.
Sure,
and
sounds right.
I liked that you were paying attention. I liked that you weren't just blowing me off. That in some way I was interesting to you. That was very exciting. And so then we moved to chatting. Through I know our first mediums were like Google, and we used Steam Chat.
Does anybody remember Google Talk? Because I sure don't.
And then you and I chatted, probably not a ton, but a bit. And then also we were doing continuing the PMs. I remember I worked for Plato's Closet back then, and I remember like waiting for my iPhone 3GS to buzz because I had it set up so that my email would get an alert when Skirts and Explosions had sent me a PM, and then I'd rush to the back and say, I'm taking my break, and I'd go back and I'd like write something back to you on the break computer in the back. It was an amazing time for me. It was so exciting. I would tell people about it, and people I trusted, not everybody, just like people that I cared about. And I was like, because I was just so excited, I couldn't shut up. I couldn't stop thinking about how fun this was. It was so unique for me. I was a teenager, graduated from high school, and I had never spent enough time on the internet to make a friend the way that I was doing now. There was one, and I've told you about her, Danny, but that was such a different and very, very mellow, very sort of emotional experience, whereas this one was so fast-paced and like crazy, and just this idea that there was this brilliant mind out there with all this talent that cared at all to take the time to talk to me was very, very, very exciting. And
plus, you're a celebrity. You're on American Idol, motherfucker.
yeah, it's so embarrassing to me that I said that to you.
Like, oh, so I had to check out like your singing, and you're an amazing singer, but yeah, at the same time, I don't think you'd ever sing a Paul Simon song. You belt it,
Yeah,
like without holding back, and so that's when I said, well, you sing it like you mean it.
you sing like you mean it, and that meant the world to me. I still say that to myself
Oh, he took
sometimes.
that as a
You sing
compliment.
like you mean
Okay,
it.
cool. All right.
Absolutely, I did. Yeah, I took that to the moon and back, man. That's going to be in my pocket for the rest of my life. But what happened right after that, coming all the way full circle, was that you, and this had never happened to me before. Remember, I didn't know anything about groups or being friends with multiple personalities on the internet or any of this crazy stuff. But you said, "Hey, jump in to this chat that we're doing with the SATGF," and I was kind of introduced to the Spanish Announce Table Goes First. Do you remember that?
I think I do. This might sound weird, but I think I also finagled LB to be on that. It was a weird moment because I think it was you, God, it was you, Brian J, Warden, Rosgreaves, and I think Vimbert and Props were also in there. And I think I somehow finagled LB to just show up, and I'd be like, "Hey, these are my brony friends." It's like, okay, goodbye.
That could very well be true. I definitely don't remember Vimber, and I don't remember LB.
I think that was an accomplishment for me, comparable to like '96 or '97 when all the disparate friends I known from both my old private school days and my new public school days came together in like one moment. I was like, oh, hum the Bookends theme by Simon & Garfunkel. This is so yeah, I remember that. Some details obviously I forget, but I remember inviting you, and because
Sure, yeah, no. The thing I remember the best, actually, it's funny, I say the best, but the details are fuzzy. But I do remember whoever was like kind of the leader of that group, or leader being whoever was like in charge of that chat, because I think someone had to be like at the top of the food chain there, kicked me out at some point. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
It was so surprising to me.
Sounds like something Pilot would have done, but I don't think Pilot was in the soul.
No, Pilot wasn't in there. I think it was Warden.
Maybe.
But I don't remember. And it was just for fun. It was just funny. But I was so I was so like removed and naive to internet culture and internet humor that I totally didn't get it.
Oh, shit.
And like I was really like, oh shoot, what did I do wrong? You know, have I just ruined everything? And funny. Then you popped into a little private chat with me at the same time, and we're just like lols, you know, and just like immediately kind of roped me back in and made it feel like it was just part of it was like a hazing. You know what I mean?
Well, better that than
part of the process.
Hole. Okay.
No, that's a great memory of mine, and all those, I mean, we used to chat all the time. It felt like to me, to you who does that with a lot of different people, I'm sure that it was a different feeling. But right there before my mission, in the months before my mission, when you and I were like really, I mean, inseparable is how it felt to me. Yeah, every single day we would find time to just like chat about inane things that didn't matter, but somehow
you were like, I'm going to the MTC soon. Like, yeah, well, I'm gonna fast the internet so I can work on End of Pony soon. So I'll see you like weeks from now. Cut to the next day. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah. I remember that. That did happen all the time, that you had this idea of let's do a hiatus, or you were like, I'm going to do a hiatus. And then
that's fast forwarding a bit, but like, it's, when you know it, you get to know someone, they turn out to be either gay or Mormon, so like they're going away, you know. But before that happened, during the whole like arc curve of background pony, I had Lemur Day, which was something I was preparing for. I thought, hey, you know what would be a cool and completely not douchebaggy thing to do is a bombard like a femfic with like 12 fics in a row and be, hey, look, check this out. Ironically, only one of them got featured, but whatever. But one of them, I was putting together like a bunch of one-shots. I was basically, hey, here's a bunch of stories from Short Scripts and Explosions. You love it, whore. And I needed like an extra one-shot. And I said, hey, straight up, hey, Ponky, give me an idea for a one-shot to write. And I think you took me about 2 or 3 minutes to come up with something. You talked about it in Punkology. It was the birthplace of Crisis and Infinite Pinkies.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty early still.
Mhm.
And that was a lot of fun. And I think between talking to me about It Ends with Them Cuddling, and then also this idea of like, hey, give me an idea for a story, really made me realize, okay, this is a long-term thing. Like this isn't just like, okay, hey, thanks for listening to me. Like this was a friendship now, you know, like it had turned into something else, and it was fun to just throw crap at you. Like, well, how about what if in that one episode it's all about time, while Pinky is kind of off screen, she went on this huge adventure through time all by herself,
Yeah.
and
And
and you just rolled with that and made it very kaizo and crazy
yeah,
and
you
fun.
incorporate the Discord from the MOV movies, and so I both hated Pinkie Pie and the MOV movies. Like, God damn it!
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I kind of forget exactly all the details of the prompt, but I'm ultimately proud of that fic,
Yeah, it's really good.
because
It was. Go ahead.
I felt like I wrote it for you, and there's a lot of really really early inside jokes.
Yeah,
Punky theme, some stuff I think thrown in about background pony, but also stuff dragged from our conversations, and like uh God, I'm trying to remember some of the shit that I did in that time. Remember remember like right before Lemur Day, I worked with Chromosome, and we swapped fics, and
heck yeah.
we
League
made
of Extraordinary Gentlefolks.
yes, we made FimFic think that I, Short Surface Explosion, had uploaded this human, like, in Equestria fic that involved, like, this human being and, like, a
In
android
a
suit
mech.
being
Yeah.
sort of whispered in the ear by the Discord of Eden. And then he meets the CMC at the end, and at the end, like, Discord's like, give him humanity's greatest gift, give him war. So I wrote a moment at the end where, like, I guess, thank you, Floydian, Anno Domini. Again, Floydian's on point. I wrote a part at the end where Discord is sending Pinky back forward in time to like the events, I guess like the starting events of like the fic or something, and she's like, "Give them Pinky's great, give them Pony's greatest gift, give them laughter." It's like a direct
Yeah.
reference to that. I was so proud of that bullshit.
Oh yeah, no, it's fantastic. And I think that that kind of stuff you introduced to me, this idea that, and you even blatantly said it several times, and it was a fascinating concept to me when we chatted about it. You said that you enjoyed making references to things that you knew no one would understand. Like that was something that gave you
I still
pleasure.
do, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's very much part of your style of your comedy. And that is so far from my idea of how to communicate that it was like mind blowing to me, and very, very you know, like that idea is now permanently connected to you. And I did it, and almost in a super meta way, I did it because I would never make references to things that no one would understand unless someone would understand it, you know?
Right.
So like,
I caught a couple of those, I think, when I finally read All Sisters Do, like twice or third time, like, oh, I get it, you know, a little shit like that.
yeah, definitely. I started putting them in my stories, but then the magnum opus was Space is a Waste, the song that I wrote that's just nothing. Every single line is a reference, obscure or otherwise, to
Yeah, it's
you or
insane
something that you've
reference.
written.
It was like barrage. But before you even did that, you did the Pray to Pretty Sprites song,
Yeah, that's right.
which is like, okay, this is really flattering. And I think it's the first time I made a blog that was acknowledging you, because apparently I was too cool to talk about this friend I was making or something. Part of the persona, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, the aloof skirts of 2012.
But I still think to this day, and maybe you're gonna slap me for saying this, that if you hadn't done the 2 years, you could have run that wave. You could have surfed that wave and probably gotten like as big as Mando Pony and shit.
I agree, and I've kind of reminisced about that in my own blogs and wondered, how things might have been. And of course, there's no point in thinking about that for a long time because it's
Right.
impossible.
Yeah.
But it is a fascinating idea that I was picking up steam with some of those songs. But that was the very first one. That was my first. I may have done other like just general pony songs, but that was the first pony song that I wrote music for, because I had done other parodies.
Yeah, you did the Coldplay one about Discord.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I would take real songs and then change the words so that they were ponified. But that was the first time that I took words from you, from your story, Background Pony. And I knew as soon as I got to that part in the narrative, as soon as I started reading this song written for a student by Princess Celestia, I was like, I'm going to write this. Because I had said a long time ago, you know, oh, I want to write the 10 elegies. And you were like, yeah, well, a lot of people want to write the 10 elegies. And so when I realized that that wasn't impressive enough, or that that wasn't realistic even, I saw this opportunity in Parade of the Pretty Sprites, which was a song within Background Pony. And I was like, I can do this. I'll write some little, you know, lullaby melody and record this song. And yeah, that turned out really well. I was happy about that.
It's so surreal to have written like something with basic rhyme on a whim. I honestly did not expect anyone to make a song out of it, and yet you just rolled on ahead and did it. Because it's a kind of weird song. It's good, but you can tell you were working really hard to make it actually like listenable.
I did have to tweak the words a little bit. And when I came to you and said something about like, can I use these lyrics in a song? You were like, well, they suck. I wrote them in all of 30 seconds. You know, like this idea that you had given it no time, and so the thought of me putting my time into it was so preposterous. But it turned out well. I was happy I did it. And again, it was just one more step. It was one more thing that made you and I kind of look at each other in the eye, so to speak, and kind of be like, okay, this is working. You know, there's a communication going back and forth. You write stories that are filled with references. I'll write a song based on your stuff. And we were just kind of, I guess, scratching each other's backs a little bit.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Man, nobody knows what's going on in your mouth.
Yeah, we were starting to understand each other, and that's a good way to put it. And I don't know, that was meaningful to me. Oh, you know what? I skipped, and this is actually a huge part that I even told you I wanted to talk about.
All right.
Was one day we're chatting, and it's still kind of it's still a little. I don't want to use the word awkward. It wasn't awkward, but by any means. It was, the way that we were chatting was so, like we were both keeping our characters, I guess, is a good way to put it.
Well, I do that a bit when I chat with people who I rarely ever chat with. Like there's a couple of people in Discord who I don't really, no offense to them, I don't consider like, oh, we know each other, but like just maybe it's the first time communicating whatsoever, and I kind of had this aloof personality because it's like a safety net, honestly. And
and I was doing the same thing in a way. It was just staying safe, keeping this persona of Ponky instead of being Kai, and it was fun. It made it more of a story as we were, you know, talking, more of a calculated thing, and it was still fun. But then there was this moment when, and I wish I had the documentation. I have no idea how this started.
I don't remember who started it either.
I have no idea. But one way or another, I think actually, I'm pretty freaking sure that we were talking about love, that we were talking about the existence of love, probably because of...
Yeah, okay, I get it. You were, and if that was the case, I was probably the Sunder personality, and you were like the other one. I forget what it's called. I suddenly quoted Nicole Kidman from Moulin Rouge.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened.
Had read, if you were old enough to even give a shit about Moulin Rouge.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. I think we were talking about Background Pony probably, and you said something like, "Oh, love doesn't exist. It's just chemicals." And I said, how could someone that has written Background Pony ever say that they don't believe in love? And I was just like so confused. And you said, like flat out, like, you know, I don't believe in love, or something along those lines. Yeah. And I go, all you need is love. And you say, a girl has got to eat. And then I type, all you need is love.
Up on the street.
Yeah, all you need is love.
It's just a game.
I was made for loving you, baby. You were made for loving me.
I don't even know the next line, to be honest.
But you did. The
only way, you know, you have to pay a lover's fee or something.
Yeah, the only way for loving me, baby, is to pay a lovely fee. And then we went back and forth. Christian, and I don't know if anybody here has seen Moulin Rouge.
I don't think anyone here has a uterus. I don't know.
So it's a Baz Luhrmann film, amazing, very, very over-the-top story intentionally. Fantastic directing, really fun music, and it stars Nicole Kidman and Ewan McGregor, who I love.
Yeah.
And so I kind of took Ewan McGregor's lines just verbatim, and you took all of Nicole Kidman's, and we sang sang, quote unquote, we typed to each other the entire song. And it was like, it was amazing. It was one of the most, I don't know how to even describe it.
If you're new to chatting online, then I guess I can understand how that was so super amazing for you. But
it was amazing. That movie has always meant a lot to me. I love it, and nobody knows it. Nobody that I've ever talked to is like, oh yeah, I love that movie. So that you knew the whole thing was such this cinematic moment for me. It was amazing, and I think that was really the big leap. I've been talking about how we kind of had these moments of understanding, these moments of scratching each other's backs. For me, that was like the time that I just jump into this, and I'm like, okay, this guy's my best friend. This guy is the person who I'm going to turn to because I didn't have anyone else. First of all, like everyone was gone. And then not only had I found someone that I could talk to a lot, it's someone that I wanted to, that I like every minute of every day. I was like, when am I gonna get to talk to Skirts? And that was so amazing for me. It was so I don't know, special and in a lot of, I know it's a silly thing to say, but in a lot of ways it really saved me in that part of my life, and just like how bored and how sad and how lonely I was, to find one of the most meaningful friendships I've ever had online was so outside of my ability to predict, and yet it worked out so well. It was amazing.
Well, a real best friend would have looked at their user page on February 1st, 2017. I'm just saying. Not putting you on the spot or anything.
I feel very put on the spot.
February 1st.
What do you
user page?
What are you talking about?
No, I guess you don't know. Oh well, asshole being blown out on stream.
What is this? Hold on. You talk now.
Someone doesn't fanfic a whole lot. Oh, hello. We're all born alone and we die alone. We all return to Stardust. The reason why we never contact alien races is because they all die out. We're just fossils left in each other's wake. To the Barcast. You pay for a horse, but you never take her to dinner. What?
Aww. Look at this on February 1st.
Could have been a thing. Oh, well. Someone's living a life. Someone's married. Oh well.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Well, that's very sweet. I'm glad you pointed me in that direction. For everybody that's too lazy to head over to my user page and find the comment left on February 1st, there's a screenshot of Nicole Kidman at the very beginning of that scene saying, "I can't fall in love with anyone." And I know that you're a fan of playing page comment tennis and hitting back and forth with images and stuff.
2017 is full of people kneeling and dropping the ball. Isn't that right?
I guess so.
Oh no. Oh shit. Shit dog. All right.
Oh, I get it.
Okay.
I get it.
I get it. So you gotta work hard to earn it, girl.
Took me a second, but yeah, nice. Real current. So
Backroom Pony came to an end, and I think I posted it the same day as the premiere of season 3. Like the whole Crystal Kingdom episode and everything, which is weird, but whatever. And then I think the night or two before it happened, I sent you like the link to the Google Docs, like chat.
Yeah.
I'm like, here, just read it before it ends because you seem to like the damn thing so much. And excuse me, maybe without saying it, I mean, your inspiration for me to continue writing the damn thing, because I kind of lost a lot of personal love for it, but I knew that you and other people were really big on it. So it was more or less inspiration to keep going.
Well, I'm glad. I love that. I remember briefly seeing my name in, I don't remember what the chapter's called, but it's the one with Snips and his father, and they live on Burton Street.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it is funny. And I don't know, I had never expected to pop up in that story, and just even such a tiny little reference was like, I don't know. I'll remember that forever. It was just kind of like a whoa, I made it moment, you know.
I feel like I've done a couple of times. I can count the fingers on one hand where I've thrown in Ponky instead of Pinky, and people are like, what? Nope, sorry, slip of the tongue or some with a little reference.
Yeah, that was in Austria at one point.
Yeah, Austria's done a couple of times.
Yeah, it was I hope it's not spoilers to say that there's a name Prouse, and Rainbow Dash accidentally says Ponky, Uncle Ponky, and
instead of Propsy. Yeah,
people in the comments like reacted because I was gone at the time, and so it was kind of just this callback to like, oh, you know, he still exists somehow.
Yeah, because you were gone for like 2 years, and before it happened, I, you know, kind of feeling the immortality blues, so to speak. Oh, I'm gonna outlive him and shit, and you know. Something that seems to be a common thread in my life is that when I get like stupidly excited, enthusiastic about something, I propose a visit to Disney at some point in the future, and so I have this kind of happy spot where I'm like, you know what? When you come back from the 2 years of like teaching Italians about space Mexico, what say you and I go to Disney World together? That can totally happen. That's not unrealistic at all, right? Oh no, that's putting not putting too much pressure on your poor freaking 19-year-old soul.
That's still something that I think we will do one day.
Someday, but, yeah, realistically in the future. But that was.
You're right that it was unrealistic, but I don't think that it was the wrong thing to say, because even if it was just a symbol, it served as this idea of a continuing friendship after I came back. Mm-hmm. And this idea that like life will go on and life will even get better. Because it was hard to leave film fiction behind. It was really hard.
It was hard to have you go too. That's why I think Props wrote the Overpinking It.
And you wrote something like Feeling, which
I wrote something else. Yeah, I wrote something like Feeling. But just throw it up there like, hey, check this out. And I think your response to Google Talk was like, holy fucking shit.
Yeah,
like,
that was the first time I think that I ever swore to you.
I needed to say something that he's going to understand. Here it is.
Yeah, exactly. I had to speak your language to show you how truly phenomenal that was. But yeah, I love that story. I've read it more than any other story on film fiction. We've talked a little bit about how we're gonna talk more about Props in the future, because he's important to both of us and we love him.
Absolutely, yeah. Brother.
And I'd love to talk all about how awesome Overpinking It is in that future podcast. But gosh,
only you and I have talked about a quote unquote future podcast in that manner.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Props if you're listening to this, which I know you're not because you're tossing salad right now, but in the future, we would love to have you as the first ever potential guest of Princess Robot Podcast. I've already discussed with some people the idea of doing the Into Ponies spoiler cast in the future, but that is going to take some more time to work on. But it would be awesome to have Props along.
Oh yeah, and this is a lot of fun. I enjoyed a lot. It seems like you're enjoying it.
Absolutely.
And people keep tuning in. So we're still gonna keep doing this. Mm-hmm. And I think we've been at this for a little over an hour now.
Over an hour, yeah.
And
we've said everything that kind of needs to be said. I mean, it serves its purpose, I suppose.
Yeah, I think all I want to finish off with is that reading something like Feeling and kind of, I don't know, that you're not one to express your emotions in a very forthright way like I am. Mm-hmm. But you read or you wrote something like Feeling, and that told me all I need to know, especially that line at the end where Lyra says, oh, Bon, you don't have to tell me. And Bon says, tell you what? And Lyra just winks and says, I know, and back at you. That was like this stake through the heart, kind of just like moment for me.
The Empire Strikes Back fan. That's what that is.
Yeah, it was a I'm your father moment of just like, no way.
It's Carbonite freezing moment. God damn it.
It can be both skirts. It can be an I know and a twist that I didn't see coming.
When was the last time you were at Disneyland?
Oh gosh, I was 12.
Okay. Whew, damn. Okay. Because being an annual pass holder for 3 years straight, I would see a lot of people walking around with like, "I love you, I know," like shirts,
Yeah.
pairs, and sometimes you'd see gay people with them, and like, oh, Disney, you never change.
That's a great line, and so back at ya has I've said that to you a lot
Oh boy,
because of that story
keep it
and
hetero, bro.
what it means. It can be plenty hetero even with love,
Plenty
but
hetero.
what happened? I think to kind of finish the story, I guess, or just leave it on a fulfilling note, is that I did leave. I did that final Ponkology that I'm really proud of.
Yes, you did. I watched that like 100 times. Holy shit, kept me alive for 2 years.
Well, I'm glad because when I watch it, I tear up in real life the exact same times that I tear up in the video, because I remember so clearly how that felt to have to say goodbye to something, to a first in my life.
Yeah.
You really are.
I don't listen to the the Spaces Away song, but I watched the hell out of the real Arrivederci Rings.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of my most heartfelt things that I ever made, and I'm glad that came across for you, because I really meant it. And then I don't know, you kind of foreshadowed this in something like Feeling, because you told me a lot in chatting and in stuff as I was about to leave. You said I'll write you frequently, and I said, yeah, we'll see. And you kind of foreshadowed that, like I said, in something like Feeling, where Bon Bon is kind of the critical one, saying it's too hard for letters to get across from Griffinvale to Equestria. And so I did have that feeling as I was going on the mission, like we might write each other a couple times. But I'm looking right. I'm in my office, and I'm looking right now at the binder that I made, where I've kept every one of the letters that you sent me, and it's gargantuan.
I could have written more. There's at least a month went by without me writing, but that's also because we had the PA.
We had yeah, exactly. Yeah, about halfway through my mission, it changed so that friends could write you emails.
It's actually way sooner than that. It was like
was it?
It was like the second or third week, because I went for about 2 years sending you emails. I even tried to make a thing out of it by making these collages of like, hey, this is what happened for the week, and you didn't have any fucking time to look at them, but whatever. I have them on my file somewhere.
Yeah. I forgot about that. It was pretty early. You did faithfully write me, and I wrote you back, and that was, I mean, really, that was the seal, the sealing the deal.
Well, I wanted to, and that's at the bottom of that.
Yeah. The things that I told you and the things that you told me were very personal, and they were a lot of fun to learn. I don't know, to just share that much about yourself to a person who cares, and yeah, I'll keep those my whole life. I'll read through them till I'm dead. Long after you're dead, which in a couple of years.
I won't take any offense if you have to just set them on fire to keep yourself warm in a thermonuclear winter. But that's all up to you.
Oh yeah,
I'll be dead.
Well, thank you. That's really nice of you to say.
Frozen in time like a skeleton with my Scientology friend, touching each other because there's a moment of death.
Yeah,
like the sergeant and the elite at the end of Halo 1.
Sure, whatever you say.
All right. So I think that's a good way to close it. So long, fuckers. Have a good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you all thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Why do you have to be polite about it?